Welcome, welcome everybody to another edition of Hot Program. I am your host with the most, all the way from the East Coast. And as always, folks, I am in airplane mode. And now a man, if he was a dinosaur, would be my freaking Bacchosaurus. A man who needs no introduction. How you doing today, my one black friend?
I am in pain, but I also have a cold to go on top of it. The baby is due to be born on Wednesday. They're going to induce labor, and I don't even know. I don't even know if I'm sick. Will they let me in the room or let me be around her? It's probably best that they don't if I can, get her sick. So
Yeah.
she'll have plenty of chances to make me sick in both her behavior and actual diseases from her kindergarten and first through fifth grade counterparts.
Has it been 9 months already?
It has basically been 9 months. We're at 30, was it 37 weeks or something like that, or 39 weeks? Whenever they can induce labor, it's happening about as fast as it can. They just want to make sure, that the lungs are developed and all these other things. And our baby has a big belly, which she definitely gets from me because my wife was skinny. Um, and she's tall, long, I guess.
Long, yeah.
Statistically, she's in the taller, longer sense of babies. So I guess that'll work to her advantage someday. As long as she doesn't stoop to feel normal sized, I'm gonna try to. If I see her doing that, I'm gonna let her know like it's okay to be you. Go ahead and
The
be
hard
tall.
part getting a long baby out of there.
Well,
That's
they're concerned about that too because she was just gaining weight. The baby was gaining weight so fast. So they don't think a C-section is needed, but that's today, right? Wednesday, when the doctor shows up at the hospital, she might say, "We're going to do a C-section. Sorry, all that workout equipment in your downstairs of your house, you're not touching any of it. Don't even
wow.
dust it off." Yeah. So we'll see. I can't use it either. I got all this stuff. Cam would be proud of me, but I can't touch it.
Why not? Oh, you're back.
Because I
You're
can only
injured.
I can still only lift 40 or less pounds. So I was at the spinal doctor and he was telling me, I said, "Okay, doc, the baby's about to be born. How do I pick her up?" And he looked at me and he's like, "Oh yeah." He goes, "You're not carrying her around." He goes, "Don't do
Wow.
that." He goes, "When you pick her up, just for anybody who's interested, hold her very close to your body. So if I do have to carry her, I'm carrying her like this, close to my body. Don't do the extended arms things. Don't, because you're creating a lever, right?
Yeah.
So now,
Yeah.
okay, so he's don't do that. If you pick her up out of her crib, the higher up she is, the better, because then you don't have to change your posture to pick her up. He goes, never twist your body. So he goes, where your nose goes, your toes go. So don't have my nose pointing in a different direction than my toes, because the torsional tweaking of my spine
Yeah.
just makes everything worse. So I've been following that. That's just great advice for people with screwed up backs. And he said the stroller. Everywhere she goes with you, she's in a stroller.
Wow.
Yep. Don't walk around the house with her or anything like that. Stroller. From the car, you can take her out of her car seat, put her in the stroller. Don't walk 5 feet with her or anything like that. Stroller.
All right.
So
Thanks for dropping the links, PC. Good to see Ember here. Ryan is in the house. Doorknob Head is here. Good to
hello
see y'all.
everyone.
So today we're gonna be talking about Diddy, and we got a lot to get through. So we're gonna head get through it. And I'm gonna just say it's a whole mess. And I'm not here just to talk about the situation itself. In other words, what he did and what he's in trouble for, but also just sort of the nuances of all the different commentaries that are happening around Diddy and why they point to some really interesting things going on that we should talk about. All right, what up, Liz Allen? All right, let me go. So first, let me start with this article. It's going to be kind of interesting, but at least people will. Actually, no, I'm gonna skip the article and play the first clip. Let's go to the first clip. And if we have to, we could go back to the article. Let me see. So this is sharing. Why is it? Oh, I have to switch to there. Okay, that looks good.
Breaking news tonight, Sean Diddy Combs has been arrested in a Manhattan hotel this evening after a grand jury indicted the music mogul. His attorney tells CNN that he is currently being processed. The charges are unclear as of this moment. Joining us now,
Robin.
CNN's entertainment reporter Elizabeth Wagmeister, and also with us, CNN chief legal correspondent Ellie Honing. Elizabeth, you were a big part of revealing some details about Diddy's conduct in private over the course of the last couple of months. That video led to a lot more scrutiny on what he has been accused of. What do we know at this point about what this case might ultimately be about?
Abby, at the moment, we don't know what the charges are. I have information that he was arrested tonight at a Manhattan hotel. He is currently being processed. I heard from his attorney, they are still maintaining his innocence. They said that in anticipation of these charges that Diddy relocated to New York last week. And here's a statement that I have from his attorney. He says, "We are disappointed with the decision to pursue what we believe is an unjust prosecution of Mr. Combs by the U.S. Attorney's Office." He goes on to say that he is an imperfect person, but is not criminal. Now, Abby, that video that you just spoke about was a few months ago when our team broke this disturbing video of Diddy violently assaulting his ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, better known as the singer, her stage name, Cassie. Now, up until this point, when we broke this video, Diddy had denied the allegations against him. Cassie is one of 10 civil suits against Diddy, 9 of which he is accused directly of sexually assault. Up until that video, he denied everything. After that video came out, he changed his tone. He apologized for his conduct in that video. But I have to tell you, Abby, just as of last week, a former member of Danity Kane, which was one of the bands from Making the Band, Diddy's show that was on MTV, she sued him for sexual assault and other disturbing allegations, and he denied that. So he continues the denials, and he still maintains his innocence, even though he has been arrested tonight.
All right, so Robin said, I know very little about Diddy. So that's part of.
You're going to learn something today.
It's part of my frustration with this. Is Diddy's a big deal, and growing up, you know, I grew up as hip hop grew up. Diddy is one of the most famous people in the world. Like he was. You know, he was with Biggie and Mace and 112, and I mean, smash hit after smash hit after smash hit. So part of what's been really interesting about this, it was sort of like when TD Jakes first got linked to this, and we did a stream about that, and a lot of people were coming through and they were like, who is TD Jakes? When these things happen, they reveal the racial gulf in this country that literally the most famous Black people in the world are treated like they're nobodies by white people. And I get it, like it could be generational differences and age differences, and maybe you're not a big fan of hip hop and, you know, all that stuff. But it just gets to a point where it's like, it kind of stings a little bit. It's like, you don't know who our celebrities are. And it does feel like I've heard a lot of people, I don't really care. It doesn't really matter, whatever. I don't really care what happens to Diddy. And it's like, would you be saying this if it was Paul Simon or James Taylor or, you know, it feels like there's a sense in which people are willing to dismiss the whole thing in a way that sort of says, you don't seem to really get how powerful and influential this man was.
No,
and if it was somebody who was equally this rich and powerful and influential in pop culture, but was white, there's no way people would be dismissing it. there's just this would be one of, it's hard with Trump and the election and Mark Robbins and everything on, but this would be one of the biggest stories. And so that's a bit frustrating too, is because, this is obviously Diddy being a terrible person. And so I don't want to like praise him or like contribute to his ego, but it can't be overstated how famous and powerful he really is. And, if that name doesn't jump out at you, then there might be a disconnect there.
Well, there's
Not
also
go ahead.
Steven Tyler had a book where he talked about him going around with a 16-year-old girl and, the things that they did together, allegedly, I suppose. And he got some backlash over that recently, within the last year. So I think more of this is going to come out because it's, I guess, what we see once somebody steps forward, they're brave enough to step forward, then other people do too. Steven Tyler, what he allegedly did is not on the level of what Sean Combs did here, because Sean Combs was recording. Well, you'll see. He was recording people. Clearly, I wonder if he did that because he wanted something later. He wanted to use that against people, get them in compromising positions, let's say, and then he can use it as a bargaining chip later. I don't know. Well, that'll probably come out in the wash as the proceedings continue on this. But I find it interesting that they're keeping him in jail, but wouldn't keep Trump in jail. You know?
That's now that's been another thing that people have come at, and there's another layer of the complexity here is there's a lot of people who have sort of come down on the side of, oh, they're going after another black man. They're going after a rich and powerful black man, and they're doing it in a way that they wouldn't do if he was white. And Trump is the example du jour that people go with when making that comparison. So you're absolutely right that Trump has been convicted of 34 felonies, charged with a whole bunch of other stuff, but nobody felt the need to keep him. Nobody felt to put him on suicide watch. So there is a story here about the way a black celebrity, rich, powerful billionaire is being treated versus how white celebrity, powerful, rich billionaires are treated. And some people take that almost in the sense of coming down on Diddy's side. Like, well, why if they're not going after Trump and they don't do as other people, then, and so people have very much tried to normalize and almost apologize for Diddy, and use people like Trump as, and that's another layer of nuance because people need to be able to say, no, what he did is monstrous, and he's going to face the consequences. And Trump should have faced the consequences as well, right?
Yeah.
And Trump should be in prison. But so it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, you're right that Trump is getting away with a lot of serious crimes, and he should be put in prison. But the fact that he hasn't been brought to justice doesn't mean Diddy shouldn't be brought to justice, right? Although, of course, you don't want to reinforce this. We don't want to normalize this either, where black people are held accountable for their crimes and white people aren't, because that is a lot of what people are seeing with this. And just also too, like, I want to be clear too. I'm not, I see all celebrities as people. I do think celebrity culture is way out of hand. And this is an example of how out of hand it is when you start to hear and understand the power he had over people, the power he had in the industry, and how he was able to use that. For me, it is like, it's not about celebrity worship, but there is a part of you that understands when you're a young person, especially young in America, where pop culture is everywhere. You do look up to people, you do admire people, you do have media figures or sports figures or entertainment. Everybody's got a favorite singer, favorite actor, favorite whatever. And yeah, these people do get rich and famous off of that. And so yeah, it's definitely something to bring up. I'm not like, oh, it's Diddy. Like he's definitely fallen from grace. I don't really care about him in that sense. But it does say something about the cultural divide that still exists when you can be one of the most famous Black people in the world, and a lot of white people just have never heard of you, don't really know that much about you. That does say something to a lot of us.
A huge amount of information available tonight, but Elizabeth brought up something that I want you to give us a little bit of insight
Don't feel bad.
into.
Don't feel bad. It's
Diddy
just the way it is.
Here in New York, in Manhattan. He apparently came here in anticipation that something like this might happen. What should we understand about what that might mean? It could very well be that this is a federal arrest being processed here in New York.
So, Abby, there are some important things we do not know, including the specific charges that have been lodged against Sean Combs. But there are some really important things we do know. First of all, based on the attorney's statement, based on our reporting, this is a federal prosecution. It's not a state prosecution. The fact that he's being processed in Manhattan tells me that's the Southern District of New York. That's consistent with the reporting that the Southern District of New York had been handling this case. That's the office I used to work at. That's an office that sort of specializes in high stakes cases. Just in the last year or so, Southern District of New York, just as an example, has successfully prosecuted Sam Bankman-Fried, Senator Robert Menendez. The other thing that we do know is a grand jury has indicted Sean Combs, meaning they found probable cause that he committed at least one federal crime. Now,
I appreciate that, Robert. I'm not upset about that. It's just that was something I was going to talk about, and your comment just was like, "Oh, I might as well talk about it now." But no, this is just a thing that I think a lot of people feel like, and this is the way with any community. Like, you're not going to know the celebrities or influential people, especially of genres of music you don't follow. So it's not something for people to feel guilty about. It's just a realization that, like, oh, we still live in somewhat different worlds, and if you're really gonna, like, integrate another culture into your life, it's gonna come with some differences. And overall, this is just how I feel about our country. Our country is still very segregated, especially depending on where you live. A lot of people live places, it's still places a lot of people go that there's no Black kids in their school. I'm talking about public school. It's still people that go to public schools with 10,000 people in it, and there might be 3 or 4 Black people in their whole school, and their parents don't know any Black. There's no Black people where their parents work. There's very few Black people where you're going to live. So of course you're not going to be up on what's going on in Black culture. But it is something, I think, that shows that we still have work to do in terms of truly being a melting pot in this country. It's something very interesting too. Like, for instance, like, I went to see a concert. It was Earth, Wind, and Fire. Interesting because as Black people, Earth, Wind, and Fire is one of the best bands there's ever been. Their live shows are amazing. But what's really interesting is, like, Chicago has an even wider audience. It's considered like an even bigger band. It was really hard. I was telling my dad, like, wow, it's really hard for me to realize that, like, what Earth, Wind, and Fire is, like, Chicago's even on another level from that. And so it's so that's something that is weird, like, because you would never go to a show and see anybody and expect Earth, Wind, and Fire to be the opening act. Right. Over and I plays for an hour, and then Chicago comes on after. And to be honest, for me as, like, a Black person, like, Chicago's music is great, but it's nowhere near hitting on the same level as Earth, Wind, and Fire. But that's just still the world we live in, where, like, even our most famous bands in the world are considered, not on the level of, their white contemporaries, even when mutual fans say, I don't know, I wouldn't want to go on stage after that Black band. I'm gonna tell you that much. But that's
I guess people, when it comes to bands, you like what you like. I went to see Adele 16 years ago or something like that. And Etta James opened for her, and Adele said, how is it something like this? How is it possible that she's opening for me?
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
Adele could honestly say, in her opinion, like, I haven't earned my place like she has. You
Right.
know, but whatever. She was still thrilled that Etta James was opening for her. Now Adele, she might say the same thing, but we won't get it. Like, no,
Yeah. No, you're
you're
really,
like a
yeah. No, you
super
really,
duper star now.
yeah. No, that's a great
But
example.
I get what you're saying, because you know, I like the Cars music. Who's Gonna Drive You Home is one of my favorite songs. But I've seen like the lead, one of the guys from Earth, Wind, and Fire in person. I haven't seen the whole band play, but I've seen him play and seen him interviewed and stuff like that. Seems like a pretty cool guy. But I definitely, roller skated their music and enjoyed it and stuff. So I think what we have is we have subcultures in America, and we tend to key in on our own,
Yeah,
or the one that our peers that we hang out with, the ones that our peers who we hang out with tend to follow, right? I didn't grow up around anybody in the goth culture. It was just utterly unknown to me. I got to college and I saw a few of these people pop up. And I'm like, what's going on here? I didn't know anything about it. Well, they probably knew most, if not everything
Well,
about it.
see, this was interesting because we went with my dad's ex-wife. They still hang out, and my dad is from South Jersey. He went to predominantly white schools. So he talked about, we came up, it was Earth, Wind, and Fire, but I listened to Chicago. I've been to see them a bunch of times. I had some of their albums. We play them in the home. That was really great. Me being the only black kid in all white schools, I was steeped in white culture. So kind of a similar deal. But for her, she grew up in Newark. She was like, oh no, we ain't, I don't even, I didn't hear till Chicago too much later in life because we didn't listen to that in my home, so
Yeah.
it really does depend on, like you said, this kind of the subculture that you're in.
Yep.
All right, here we go.
There will be, likely tomorrow or within the next couple of days, but usually in the SDNY, you try to do it the next day, there will be an arraignment, meaning Sean Combs will appear in court with his lawyers. There are no cameras in federal court. He will be advised of the charges against him, and he will almost certainly enter a not guilty plea. But the key thing to watch for is then we'll have the question of bail. Will prosecutors agree to let him out on bail? Will prosecutors ask the judge to lock him up pending trial? That could end up in a contentious argument. So these are things that are going to play out over the next 24 or 48 hours.
Okay. So these images, sorry, he's talking and he's doing a good job, but these images are very interesting because if you go back here, I think he's holding up his love sign. They kind of have it cut off, but I think he's holding up his, like the heart with the hands. To be honest, Caitlin Clark does a similar, the women's basketball player does a very similar hand gesture.
Will prosecutors ask the judge to lock him up?
He's
trial,
still doing his brother love.
In a contentious argument. So these are things that are going to play out.
And then here he's with Al Sharpton. And so one of the things that I find very interesting about Diddy is he made a conscientious decision to turn towards religion before all this came out. He was in trouble. He kind of knew he was in trouble, and he went through a complete rebrand. So he's always changing his name. He's from Puff Daddy to P Diddy to just Diddy.
Yes.
And now his latest incarnation was Brother Love or simply Love. And that's what he wanted everybody to call him, Love. And he made a strategic decision to seek out TD Jakes and to emulate TD Jakes and to make TD Jakes his spiritual advisor. And the people who were around him when he was doing this literally will tell you he wasn't really having a faith conversion. He wasn't really, working on his relationship with the Lord. He was aware that he needed to improve his image, that he needed to improve his reputation. And he believed he could use, seeming like he's a Christian now and having TD Jakes as his, spiritual advisor and all of this stuff, that he could basically Christ wash his image. And what's interesting about that, so for those that are keeping score, that's our tie-in with counter apologetics. Okay, is that when before the hammer came down, he wanted to give his life and be brother love and hang out with ministers and all of this stuff. But it's very interesting because he was basically blatantly using Christianity as cover, and it's amazing that Christians don't seem to call that out or get upset or get angry about that. They seem to be excited to have a Black celebrity in the fold, dedicated to their causes, willing to take pictures with them, but they don't really seem to care whether or not they're actually serious about the faith. So,
well,
go ahead.
No. You go ahead and finish.
All I was going to say was what's interesting about this particular case was it ended up, rather than TD Jakes being able to Christ wash Diddy's reputation, Diddy ended up ruining the reputation of TD Jakes, and being caught up with Diddy and hanging out with Diddy at all these parties ended up being the downfall of TD Jakes' ministry, rather than the successful Christ washing of Diddy's reputation. All right, go ahead.
Well, I went to a church here in Los Angeles that had a lot of members that were in the entertainment industry. And it was a point of pride to a lot of those people. So-and-so's on that show. So-and-so's on that show. That guy's a producer, blah, 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 blah. All was a big thing because it sort of legitimized the church that they had all these successful people. So look, God is blessing them. God will bless you. And I'm thinking, hey, this is great. It's probably true. Maybe this person can help me out. I'm trying to get to this point. I'm trying to sell screenplays, blah, 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 trying to act. Maybe that'll happen for me. And then you learn how power works. And a lot of them don't have any influence or power. They can't do a damn thing for you. But anyway, it added legitimacy. That's the key point. And, I do wonder if sometimes local churches aren't more of a social club for people making deals than it is for people being righteous.
Hey, man! This makes sense.
Yeah, YouTube Punk.
Yes.
We got the store back. I told YouTube Punk I'll get the store back so we could redeem sounds. But yeah, I think it really is. You hear this a lot about golfing. I remember both my parents at some point got into golf, and they still like it, but it was very clear that I got into it because that was like the business class thing to do. Right, like that was where you were supposed to make deals, and you were going to have more corporate upward mobility because the real executives and the big money players, a lot of times they're doing the deal at the golf course before they even get into the office for the day. So if you don't play golf, like, you're cut off from certain levels of power, because if they just deal with you in the office, you ain't even part of the club, really. And I think church is very much the same way, right? You don't have to play golf, but you go to that same church, you'll have your little Bible study, a little men's group, or you go out to lunch, you go out to coffee. So I think you're right. I think that's why a lot of people are in churches. And I think that that's what they're doing when they're, praising the celebrities or bragging about the celebrities that are in their congregation. They're trying to signal to people there are resources at our church. Our church is the in church to be in. There's powerful rich people around. So it's very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
All right, hang on. Let me end up switching windows. Here we go.
For the next 24 or 48 hours. And finally, Abby, with respect to the charges themselves, it's important to note, we've all seen that video, but assault and sexual assault are not federal crimes. Those are prosecuted in state court. So what I expect to see when we see this indictment is some sort of crime with some element of organization to it, sex trafficking, something along those lines, if it's based on some of the allegations we've heard.
And of course, back in March, his homes in LA and in Miami were raided. All of this leading up to this moment. Elizabeth and Ellie, a lot more to this story will be coming up in the coming days and weeks.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment.
All right, so I'll play this. I'll let the district attorney play this thing, and then the next thing we got is actually like some commentary on it.
Charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution.
Pay attention to that, y'all. Interstate traffic, human trafficking for prostitution, because we're gonna come back to that. We are definitely
trafficking indictment. Charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy,
RICO,
sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution.
And transport for prostitution.
As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs. And he often...
Yo, freak-offs is officially in the lingua franca of our legal system. You literally have the district attorney sitting up here like talking about freak-offs.
Electronically recorded them. Yeah. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice in the Southern District of New York.
So the latest on the arrest.
Crazy. All right, let's go. Let's switch over to these guys. They'll help us get into some of the stuff that's going on with the language around this whole thing. But these guys are kind of fun too. So all right, let's go.
Today's topic: Puff Daddy's been arrested.
I thought I told you that we won't stop. I thought I told you that you just got stopped. You didn't stop, but you got arrested.
I'm telling you, the feds were watching you. Every step you took,
every move you make,
we won't be missing you, okay? And now we're at a point where this guy won't even get bond
serious.
Because the judge says, or the prosecutors made the case that this guy's a huge flight risk, so he's going to be in jail. Now, some people are going to say things like, Abba, he's not been found guilty. Let me tell you guys.
Innocent until proven guilty.
If the feds come for you, it's over. Okay? And you may not understand the difference, but for example, right now, YSL out in Georgia are going through a RICO case themselves. But that's at the state level, and it's going horribly for the state. And there's a very strong chance that YSL Young Thug will get off on those charges, because I've been watching that whole trial unfold. A federal charge is not the same at all. The federal government has way more tools to be able to find evidence, to prosecute you. And in federal court, they have a conviction rate that's so high. I think it's like 99%. That's why a vast majority of the time, if things are going to federal court, what ends up happening is that everyone's guilty or they take a plea deal. And in which case, they're still going to do a substantial amount of time.
And the thing that happened is that this one is going to be highly publicized. Media is going to be on that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be it's going to be a high profile case.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be like, no, let's just drop it or let's just move this thing on silence. There's no silence.
The feds don't let go. Once they're on something, the moment I heard the feds were looking into sex trafficking, I knew it was over for this guy. If you aren't aware, he's facing charges of racketeering, which is RICO, which is essentially going after people for engaging in criminal activity as part of an organization. Meaning that's not just him going to jail. There's other people who helped him. And if you go read the indictment, there's actually a lot of allegations in regards to how bodyguards, agents, and other employees help facilitate some of these freak-offs.
And here's another good comparison to Trump. It's RICO. It's a whole criminal organization that he's at the top of.
Yeah.
And just like Trump, we need to see everybody on down that was involved with the criminal aspects of this organization held accountable. So that will be another interesting comparison, because if all of Diddy's underlings start getting serious time, but the people involved in Trump world don't, that's going to exacerbate this comparison. But that is what should happen in both cases.
You know what a freak off is? That's what he would call his freaky parties, where he'd have his employees and the women, he would do some freaky things and he would record them without them knowing. And then if they were trying to come forward, he would try to extort them or apply pressure through career or exposing them to keep them to be quiet. Remember when the feds went and broke down his home? They showed up with a bunch of people. Yeah, they were seizing things. You know what the funniest details from the story?
Yeah.
All right, so
Go ahead,
the
sir.
lube. We're gonna talk
The
about
funny
this.
detail about the story is that in my house I have 2 baby oil bottles, and I think it's too much. And they found thousands.
Thousands of baby oil bottles. Those were
Yeah.
for freak offs.
They
Don't
literally
use baby oil. Use a water-based product, not baby oil.
the best lube is lube. I always tell that's kind of what's going on here. But he also had baby oil. I think he had both. I think he had like 1,000 bottles of lubricant, and then also all these bottles of baby oil. More baby oil than a pro wrestling convention. It is a funny detail. Like I don't know how you get away from it because there's so many crimes, but it's almost been like too much about the baby oil and the lube. But it is funny, so I don't know what you're gonna do.
Well, I think that's why, because it's sensational, right? It brings it's there's a shock value there. Weirdly, that same Chiron said AR-15s. Who cares? These guys, did they even mention the AR-15s? Did they even mention the guns? What's the point of that?
They need to. I mean, the gun charges.
But nobody's
serious.
surprised. Nobody's surprised.
Right. He's got but he's got assault weapons with the serial number clearly defaced. I mean,
defaced.
Diddy's got some serious gun charges.
In my neighborhood, probably every 5th house has at least one assault weapon.
But which is a problem. We really do need to get rid of the assault.
Well,
weapons.
these aren't the people that will go shooting up a school. They're mostly too old.
But a lot of them being unwilling to give up their assault rifles is problematic, right? I get you. Like they're not willing. They're not committing the mass shootings.
No, they're not dangerous.
But they also probably need to be willing to give up them ARs so that we can get them off the people who are. But yeah, this country just has a gun issue. But yeah, so people don't know. Like Diddy supposedly had rooms in his house where he could arm gangs of thugs, and literally had secret rooms. You hit the book or whatever, and the bookshelf switches around. And allegedly he had all sorts of weaponry, and all sorts of guns and other stuff, like really like army stuff. Like it's really weird.
Really?
Yeah. Which is odd too, because to think about it, he's got security all the time around him. He's super rich and powerful. Like, it definitely seems to be shady. Like you don't need that. You can literally hire bodyguards who themselves can be armed.
Sick of it. I'm taking the gloves off.
He clearly had some other stuff going on.
Yeah.
Sir.
The dude's got lawsuits ranging in the hundreds of millions. He's got $100 million worth of baby oil, so I think he's good. He's on them baby.
You can resell that on the black market, and he's cool.
But let's move on to the next charge.
Human trafficking.
Human trafficking.
You have to understand what human trafficking takes. If you take someone from one place and you move them to another place and you arrange their travel and you pay for that person to have services, it's trafficking.
And so the reason why this is federal is because this
happened. All right, so this is another thing that we need to address. And the language is going to get a little weird here, but follow me, y'all. I'm not the only person talking about this. Part of what people are doing in this commentary is conflating criminal activity with sexual expression. And a lot of it comes down to essentially people defending him or acting like he's being persecuted for being freaky. Mm-hmm. Like he's being persecuted because, he wanted to watch his girlfriend have sex with other men or whatever. And so this is sort of the mild entry into that. It's like, oh, well, he's being charged with human trafficking. And then the defense is like, well, it's almost like the sane washing we were talking about in my other stream. Like, well, if you pay for a person to move from one state to another and you cover it, you're now guilty of human trafficking. No. You can meet a woman in another state on Tinder tomorrow, pay to have her flown across the country to be with you, take care of husbands, and nobody's going to charge you with human trafficking. It's when you're charged with this as a criminal violation, it's because you were doing something criminal, right? So the issue is the prostitution. The issue is the coercion. The issue is the allegations of sexual assault. The human trafficking charges are being brought because they're a component of those other crimes. And so it is a real disservice to people to make it sound like, well, they go after you for this too. If you live in a different state than your partner and you pay for their plane ticket, they're gonna come after you for human trafficking. You see what I'm saying? And it's like, that's not helpful. That's not helpful, and that's not what's happening here. The other thing that gets interesting about this is, in a sense, people are repurposing the language of inclusivity sort of in a way that we do with LGBTQ people, but using it in this case to downplay the crimes that are being committed. And people have a big problem with that. And I can see where they're coming from. Basically, the idea is like, well, he's being freaky. We're supposed to leave people alone. We're supposed to let people love who we love. Why are we kink shaming him? Right? It's like all of this stuff. And it's like, no. That's not what this is. This is about crime. This is about rape. This is about prostitution. This is about coercion. This is about assault. This is about a lot of stuff. But the people who want to downplay his criminal liability want to make it like, love is love, and we should just let people do what they want. And so I have heard that there are people who in the LGBT community don't appreciate that. Like they don't appreciate that the language of inclusivity and accepting people's sexuality is being repurposed to make apologies for criminal behavior. So that's why I wanted to get into this, y'all, because it's not just talking about Diddy. It's all these other things that are happening around this conversation that are also very interesting.
Happen across state lines. A prosecuting team in New York cannot go all the way to Alabama and do all these things and conduct their investigation. They don't have jurisdiction. They can't charge the person for crimes there. That's where the FBI comes in, because they charge things across state lines on a federal level.
Yeah, so there's right now there's LA, there's New York, there's Florida, there's a bunch of different states that are involved in that. So
dozens of different women are part of this investigation. There's also males who are part of this investigation because the free costs also involved male victims. Now, you can feel how you want about this thing. I watched this man on camera beat a woman. There's his own bodyguard talking about not only how he beat that woman before the video ever came out, but he also talked about how he used to beat his ex-wife. And her family corroborates the fact that he used to beat her and then pimp her out.
How many times did you personally witness him be violent towards women?
Around 4 or 5 times.
And was that all with Cassie, or was it Cassie and other women?
I seen him with Cassie, and I seen him with Kim Porter, his kid's mother.
So this video comes from the Cuff Boys.
And this is a lot. Like, this is a lot because allegedly, the ex-wife was really treated badly by Combs, and she was, from the reports, like just all types of messed up. And it seems like she was finally getting her life together, found herself in a new relationship. She was happy. She was kind of recovering, and I think she was going to write a tell-all book, and then she turned up dead. And this is not the first time Diddy's name has come up involved in a murder charge, right? There are rumors he was involved with Tupac. There are rumors he was involved with Biggie. He was involved in that nightclub shooting that he got away from because Shine took the fall. But now Shine is saying Diddy ruined his life and that he didn't really do it. One of the victims who was in the nightclub said Diddy shot the gun. So allegedly, Diddy was shooting guns off in nightclubs. And then Cassie was in a relationship with another rapper after she broke up with Diddy. I'm not thinking of the name. I can't think of this rapper's name. I've been having it in my head now. It's slipping my mind. But Diddy blew up his car. And he's talked about, like, Diddy set his car on fire. So we're talking about, we're in monster land, y'all. We're talking about serious crimes, like serious crimes. This isn't about kink shaming, okay? This is not kink shaming, y'all.
Indictment, and I thought there's some interesting stuff.
All right, let's go, boys. All right, right here we got the United States versus Sean Combs.
There it is. Look at the alias.
AKA Puff Daddy,
AKA
P Diddy,
AKA
Diddy,
AKA
PD,
AKA.
That's what it says. That's creepy. Don't even front. Imagine some nigga just roasting on you coming out of the bathroom in a bathrobe.
Hey, my name is Love.
But look, let's jump into a little bit of counter apologetics for a moment, y'all. Isn't this what churches keep doing to us? They just keep telling us it's all about love. Meanwhile, it's scandal after scandal after scandal that they're covering up for. You know, it's a mess. So it was just so Christian of him to do that. But that's what he tried to do. He tried to rebrand himself actually using love.
Well, the power of the gospel is personal change. It is reformation. So it's supposed to work. And honestly, for some juries, if there are Christians who've had a similar transformation, right, regardless to how big it was, but if they credit God with it, they can look at Combs while he's on trial and say, well, look, there's only so much I can do for him as a person on the jury. I could ask for leniency, or if I see real transformation, it can be a hung jury, right? They won't convict him. You know, they find him not guilty of this or that.
Yeah.
And maybe look for the lesser stuff where they can just let it go. But the big stuff, no.
To be honest with you, I think that's what he should do. I really think he's going down, and I would be surprised if he isn't headed towards spending the rest of his life in jail. If he somehow can avoid that, you know, go the Mace route. This is when you turn to Christianity, turn to the Lord, become a Christian artist, be like Kanye, talk about what Jesus has done to you, because that is a real path to redemption, right? Like
publicly,
for some reason, yeah. If for some way he gets out of this, which I don't think he's going to, y'all. Again, I think he's headed to a super long prison sentence, but I could be wrong. If he somehow weasels his way out of this, to say the damage is done in terms of his mainstream reputation, that's an understatement. But again, it's very interesting. Christianity always provides that path to redemption. That is something you could see him. They all do it. Deion Sanders did it. Steve Harvey did it. Michael Irving did it. You know, they all do that. You get caught up, you finally get exposed, and then you give your life to Christ, and that puts you on the path to redemption. So wouldn't be surprised at all.
And then the girls is behind over there. Ooh, Daddy, come to bed. You can call me Love.
Love and money and power and young boys.
The funniest clips ever is P. Diddy. He's a picture of him, and it's just him riding a bike. And then there's 50 cents in the comments saying, you know, there's no bike seat on that thing. I can't believe people can't believe that this man ran a criminal organization. From the jump, he called himself Bad Boys. He was letting you know what he was up to. He was letting you know he's up to no good.
No.
Started making trouble in our neighborhood.
Indictment: for decades, Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy P. Diddy, the defendant abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, Combs relied on his employees, resources, and influence of multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of.
If you wonder what the arson is, I remember this story. Kid Cudi.
Yep.
There it is.
Somebody blew up his car.
Kid Cudi, that's
He'd
the name.
always alleged it was Puff Daddy. Why? Because his ex wanted to get with him.
Cassie.
So P. Diddy, it was alleged that he blew up his car. Well, it turns out that shit is true. This man, that's how possessive and jealous he was. He blew up another man's car
justice. So basically, he's the f***ing devil.
That's what I'm saying. Like intrigue, like palace intrigue. There's no way all this is happening with a famous white rock star, and it wouldn't just be the fucking story of the fucking millennium. Like it's just he's blowing up his girlfriend's new lover's car. And he also happens to be a famous person. Like, you know, there's a lot of like it's black on black crime. It's hip hop. Like it's just it's a lot of.
They've been making records about it for decades.
They've been making records about it for exactly.
I know this isn't funny, but headquartered at various times in Manhattan and Los Angeles under a variety of United States-based corporate entities, including Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprises, Combs Global. Corporate entities in the Combs business included, among other things, record labels, a recording studio, apparel line, alcoholic spirit business, marketing agency, and television network and media company. Engaged in persistent and pervasive pattern of towards women and other individuals.
I think it's worth mentioning, if people don't realize, P. Diddy's a billionaire. Okay, he's huge in terms of just how much power he has in the industry. And you have to think, a lot of the women who are alleging things happened to them came into the music industry at a time where people like this guy ran everything. There was no SoundCloud, there was no other come up. You came up through record labels and you came up through people like Puff Daddy. And so if they want to take advantage of you and you wanted to have a career, there was nothing you could do. Okay? And even if you wanted to do something, by the time you wanted to, they were already extorting you. They were already using camera footage of you. They were already saying they were going to ruin your life. And so you really didn't have a choice in these kinds of situations.
So much stuff, like there's so much stuff over your head that's you have a Damocles sword on your head right now. He controls media. He controls fashion industry. He controls music. So if you're a musician, done. If you want to do fashion, done. Music, done. Everything is done. You can't really go anywhere. And if you're in none of these circles, he can just coerce you because he has the footage. So he could just, the footage got leaked for some reason. It wasn't me.
Yeah. Back in those times, having something leak about you was like a death sentence.
Yeah, it was.
So it's not like today where everyone got an OnlyFans or whatever. Those times is a completely different time.
Kardashian. Cool.
If you want to just understand just how much power this guy had in his environment, the dude was given the keys to the city. He was recognized by the local government. This dude had his
He's a doctor.
You know, the honorary.
Okay, honorary, but he still gave him.
They gave it to him. They gave it to him. Yeah, no, this is really interesting. So, as somebody with a PhD, I'm not a fan of honorary doctors. I'm gonna leave it at that. Ain't nobody give me mine for doing nothing cool. But the thing about the key to the city and Gene Deal, if y'all look up Gene Deal,
I have him on another tab.
Yeah, he's Diddy's former bodyguard. What he talking about is, you gotta remember, Diddy got that key to the city because he had dirt on all these politicians, and they think including Mayor Adams. So, you know, Diddy was they wanted to hobnob, they want to socialize with him, just like Trump. He's not just a celebrity, he's a New York City celebrity. And so it's now looking almost like evidence of this corruption that in the midst of all of this controversy this man's going through and has been for the past year, he's given the key to the city. So again, more palace intrigue.
Influence this man has. So when people are saying this guy ran a criminal enterprise, you have to understand he used his organizations to do his illegal activities. Okay, that's how big of a person he was in terms of entertainment. When I saw a bunch of rappers sit at the table while this dude was doing gay ass such shit, talking about
I'm not a fan of as a non-doctor. I'm not a fan of THDs. Yeah, me either. Doctorates of theology. Oh, don't even get me started.
I would like to get an honorary doctorate in theology because I'm not going back to school for all that time.
Yeah, that's what
I'd like to get that one. I think I might have earned that one, but who knows?
They're all honorary doctorates.
Why don't you party with me, Daddy? Yo, Daddy. I like the way you do that, Daddy.
I got Mr. Lee.
I love this drink.
Where you put my bag?
I like when you like this, Daddy.
Yeah, where you put my bag?
Daddy, I like when you scrambling and
And they looking at him like, pause.
I like that.
You know, I've been practicing. I got.
Did you miss me though? For real, because I'm saying it seems like a thing.
I miss
his birthday
with
party,
Puff, man.
But I'm talking about for your birthday.
Huh?
Why won't you party with me for your birthday, man? We partied for my birthday before. You came to my party. No, but me and you ain't never really partied.
When I saw these guys go,
now see, this
and
is
nobody-
weird, but people don't understand the backstory. So the backstory is people really did party with Diddy, and they think Diddy's into that freaky stuff, and so people just started avoiding him, right? Like they just, but he would call them out, like in these interviews like this. I think he's dealing with Fabulous is the rapper's name, who's on the other side of the table that he's talking. Fabulous was a huge rapper coming up. I listened to a lot of Fabulous. He was really big in that time. And that's what a lot of these rappers are saying. Like Diddy would try some crazy stuff and they stopped messing with Diddy, and then Diddy would call you out. Like, so people think it's a lot of stuff he's been doing for a long time, y'all.
He said shit.
Nobody said nothing.
And that's all the people that are claiming to be. That's all the people that are claiming to be gangsters that do this and that smack a motherfucking this and that.
They were
everybody
terrified.
Who stay quiet.
They were afraid of this man.
And I understand.
Yeah,
I'm not even throwing him. I can understand in the win and the power that this guy had. I understand what was going on there. But
pussy
still happened.
Pussy. You can't make all that music talking about how hard you are, how you gonna bang on niggas, and then when a dude wanna bang you,
wait, huh?
No pause, no nothing.
Nope.
Just you let that shit slide.
Just a slide.
Okay.
Just a silence.
Anyways.
Women to participate in highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity with male commercial sex workers. This is where it gets sus. Bro was forcing women to have sex with other men. Like, straight, he's a cuck. Times, Combs, and others acted as direction, made arrangements for women and other commercial sex workers to fly to his location. Combs ensured participation from the women by, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support, and threatening to cut off at the same time using intimidation and violence. So cornering them by all ways you can imagine to force them to have sex with random men because he's a f***ing cuck. Physical.
All right, so another layer, just layers. It's like an onion or fucking.
I'm sure the Onion will get to do their story on this
or
as well.
Croissant or whatever. It's so many layers. Okay, so I don't care if rappers are gay. Nobody really should care if rappers are gay.
Me neither.
But it is a problem if rappers are the source of portraying a hyper masculinity that itself really does contribute to homophobia. There is a ton of homophobia in hip hop culture. And then it turns out that is really just self-hatred because this is what they're doing to themselves. It's sort of like, it's like my issues with religion in the Catholic Church and in these different religious organizations. I don't care if you're a homosexual. I do care when you proliferate homophobia and then turn out to be gay.
Exactly,
That's a problem.
yeah.
That's a problem. And again, it's even your self-hatred, it really isn't that my problem. That's between you and your therapist and your romantic partners. But you put it out in the streets to a point where it hurt other people and got swept up in the culture, and then it turns around, you're a fucking fraud. That I take issue with.
For people like that, the good they can do is just say, let's not judge people for who they love.
Yeah.
You know, if it's two consenting adults and it brings them joy and happiness, what more are they asking for than you want for yourself? Yeah. Right? They're not asking for some special privilege or exception or anything like that. They just want to be loved and enjoy themselves. That's not horrible.
Right.
Unless you get into somebody trying to steal somebody away from their spouse or something like that. Okay, that's horrible.
Then that's a thing too. Like there's a lot of that in certain rappers. I shouldn't say rap in general because there's a lot of great rap. There's a lot of socially conscious rap. There's a lot of rap that is feminist. There's all of those things. But you know, people know what we're talking about. Largely, we're talking about sort of the mainstream, somewhere in between pop, leaning towards gangster rap, right? That has become sort of the bravado and the image of hip hop, even if it, of course, doesn't, reflect the full spectrum of the art. That's the problem, and it's the same thing. Like I don't really care if rappers are into cuckolding if they want to watch their partner with other people. It's weird, but again, it's the weird thing is the image they're putting out there that's not true, that's harmful to other people. You make it like you got to be this bravado, tough alpha male guy, and all this stuff, and it turns out that that's not really what you're interested in. You could have normalized a very different, more inclusive way of being. So I think that's problematic. But when you hear these stories, you will hear people kind of throwing a lot of shade at Diddy for being in these things with these other men. And I just want to put it out there, like, I'm not personally trying to contribute to the homophobia. I think this is an incident where we need to start to call out and correct for the homophobia in hip hop. This is a great opportunity to do that because we're seeing the fraudulent nature of it. But that is another layer to the story that's unfortunate. I do think it's more reasonable when people are talking about the hypocrisy, the self-hatred. That I think that's a more reasonable critique. So yeah, this is just really interesting. But yeah, that's part of it, y'all. He was paying to have male prostitutes flown in from different places, and then apparently drugging them and his partner so that he could watch and enjoy these like extended sessions of watching his partner with these other men. And I guess he was also filming all of this. So
abuse. We all saw the video in the hotel of him running in a damn robe numerous occasions from 2009. Combs assaulted women by striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at, and kicking them. These assaults were at times witnessed by others, including.
Oh, hang on. This is something that came to my attention the other day. Janet Jackson did say some racist shit about Kamala Harris. So DC said Janet Jackson has issued an apology after claiming that Kamala Harris is not black, echoing an outrageous false claim made by Harris's White House rival, Donald Trump. I'm glad she did that. That's nice. She was, they had her looking crazy.
Was captured on video and later publicly reported where Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman she was attempting to leave. When a member of hotel security staff intervened, Combs attempted to bribe the staff member to ensure silence. It was not limited to these women. It extended to his employees, witnesses, and abuse to others. He used his business to cover up his abuse and commercial sex. His employees, including security staff, household staff, personal assistants, high-ranking supervisors, and other close associates, acted as Combs' intermediaries. Members and associates of Combs' enterprise engaged in and attempted to engage in sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, coercion, and enticement to engage in prostitution.
Ooh, the fact that they're mentioning all this in the indictment, you know what that means? They got snitches everywhere.
Oh yeah, motherfuckers everywhere.
And you guys understand a RICO, what happens when you have a RICO is that everyone who's part of the organization is going to jail for 20, 30 plus years. Some of them even life. They can face life in prison for being part of this organization.
Crazy.
So when the FBI is coming to your door, you're the personal assistant, they're saying, we're going to put you in life behind bars. If you don't testify against this man and against some of the people who are at the top of this pyramid, of course these people are going to snitch. They're going to say everything. They're going to keep all the records, all the text messages, all the pictures they took, and they're going to turn all that shit over. It is done. They got everything on this dude.
And the thing that happened is that the reason why they publicized certain cases like that in the beginning, it got rated. Some of these people working for the year are going to be like, God damn, I got to fess up about some shit. Or else
they'll come forward early saying, I have additional information.
They know about, and all the people.
Well, that's what's interesting. And
then they'll get immunity.
And you have seen this with Trump, to where some of his
minions,
his co-conspirators, remained unindicted, and it seems like a big part of that was they cooperated when they were first approached. You have other people like Jenna Ellis, who is cooperating now but wasn't, and so she got convicted in Georgia. And so a lot of people play that game, right, where they're gonna hold down the front, they're not gonna testify, they're gonna be the good soldier, but these feds ain't playing, y'all. These feds is really, really not playing, and that makes a difference because what happens is they might say to you, my one black friend, okay, you're looking at 30 years, but cooperate in we'll see what happens. Maybe we bust you down to community service. Maybe we bust you down to like a regular simple felony. And then depending on who you are and how much agency you had, you might even get off. But if you don't cooperate, if you try to play cute now, then you might get charged with something, convicted of something. Maybe say you get sentenced to sentence. They charge you. They bring you up. They say, okay, you're part of this conspiracy. We now charge you. You get convicted of something that's like 10 years off that. They'll still come back to you. To your point, they'll come back to you even after that. This is what happened to Jenna Ellis. Well, you're still facing these federal charges. You're still facing these other stuff. There's still more stuff about to come out in this trial. You sure you don't want to cooperate? So it's not just an all-in-one. It's not, you know what I'm saying? It's not just one shot. Sometimes it's, oh, you got convicted, but there could be a lot more, and that's when you get somebody cooperating. But yes, you're right. There's a lot of people who to save their behinds, it's time to spill that tea. And a lot of them probably did keep records and extra evidence because they knew this day was probably coming. Yeah.
That they're like, hey, by the way, I want to talk to you about something because I'm in hot water.
Protecting the Combs enterprise,
Rico don't play,
including Combs from detection and prosecution by law enforcement authorities through acts of intimidation, manipulation, bribery, and threats of retaliation against individuals who witnessed the crimes committed by members and associated enterprise. That's bad. So there's clearly some, serious witness intimidation evidence in this case as well.
So if you're unaware,
okay,
there's also
couple things here. So one, boy, oh boy, are you in a lot of trouble. You might think, because we're normal people, so for normal people, we're like, abusing your partners, that sounds really bad. Yeah, it sounds pretty bad. Sex trafficking, yeah, I definitely don't want to get caught up in no sex trafficking. That sounds pretty bad. What'd you say? They found a room full of assault weapons that had the serial numbers filed off? Oh no, serious federal gun charge? Yeah, no, I don't want any parts of that, right? This all sounds like really bad stuff to most of us. But as someone who used to work in the legal world, I'm gonna tell you, they don't play around with that witness tampering. Don't sleep on that witness tampering. Oh, they think you made some phone calls, offer some people the deals to keep them quiet. Oh, what? And then you got Shine? You have Shine? You have this other rapper under you that's going to come out and say he was sentenced to 10 years in prison because you paid him off in the 90s? So there's a history of you being accused of it? Oh, no. Oh, no. Y'all, don't sleep on that witness tampering. The feds, because that messes with their conviction rate. That messes with the process. That's you messing with them. You understand what I'm saying? When you do all your crimes that they hold you accountable, technically the victims are other people, right? When you do witness tampering, the victim is the federal government. So they don't play with that witness tampering. That's a huge deal. That is a big deal. Also, AR said it's crazy he recorded this stuff. All right, so I'm gonna put this to y'all like this. This is one of the very interesting things, and you can see where power and privilege come together. I kind of played this game. My friend that said, "What do black politicians go to prison for?" Made a couple guesses or whatever, and I finally told him. I said, "Paying off the mistress." Right, the mistress didn't. The mistress got a contract she didn't deserve. The mistress got a position in the governor's administration she wasn't qualified for. The mistress got a house. The mistress got a boat. Right? They took care of the mistress. Eventually, the paper trail comes to life, and that's what they go down for. What do white politicians go to jail for? They go to jail for not paying off the mistress. Right? And that's crazy to black folk because they come to you and they're like, yeah, so you remember that night you essayed me, right? Remember that night, right? Do you remember when this happened? Right? It'd be really bad if your wife found out about that. It'd be especially bad if in an election year, the general public found out about that, right? And so what's the black politician? He gonna pay her off. What do you need? How do I make this disappear? What's the white politician gonna do? No, I don't care. That's extortion. You can't prove it, right? And then they end up in some real shit because it goes. So one of the things that's most fascinating about this with this whole Puffy thing is the money and the fame seem to really have gone to his head, and he really handled this like a white boy for getting his black ass. because Cassie came to him privately and said, I would like to settle this out of court. I would like to
she
just
settled it
make
out of
this go
court
away. And
instantaneously.
yeah, and no, but he didn't. He agreed to something and then he didn't do it, right? And then that's when she sued. And then the very next day they settled because he paid her. He agreed. Some people say like 30 million. He agreed to pay her off. But see, now it don't matter because she got whatever she got originally. She probably got whatever paid off in the criminal case. Sorry, she got whatever paid off after that lawsuit, and now her stuff is out there, and she probably could end up testifying against him anyway. My point is, he could have really avoided all of this, y'all, had he just paid this woman off. He pays her off. She doesn't go to court. J-Rod then doesn't follow up with his lawsuit. The Danity Kane person doesn't follow up with their lawsuit. He doesn't get raided. So y'all gotta understand, we don't understand. You and me, most of us watching, we don't understand that world because he knew what he did to her. We've all seen it now on camera. He knew what he did to her. He knew what she had on him. And he tried to get cute and not pay the woman, being a billionaire. Y'all already know we don't know these problems because we'd have hit her off with, what was she asking for, 50 million, 100 million? What do you need? We would have just paid it. Just be honest with yourself. Most of us, we'd have just paid it. None of this would happen to us because we'd have just paid it. Don't worry, no matter I'm so rich that I'm gonna pay her whatever. I'm still gonna be rich. So
yeah, you won't miss the money. You won't even
miss the money. So just remember, this is all a very self-inflicted wound, y'all. And most of us really don't understand. He really forgot his black ass, y'all, because most black celebrities just paid this person off. What's wrong with you?
Instances of witness intimidation where he ended up contacting somebody
who saw something
53 times. He called her in 24 hours. And then afterwards, she ended up coming out with a statement on Instagram after all those calls. And so they're using that. And then they got her basically saying, yeah, he did intimidate me. So
yeah, Liz, this stems from the lawsuits. His ex tried to get him to settle. He wouldn't. So she sued him. He then had to pay her off and settle anyway. And then once that lawsuit came out and people could read the filing, other people started filing suits. So again, that brings up a great point, Liz Allen, because not only did he know what he did to her, he knew what he did to everybody else. He knew that there was a whole can of worms that could be opened if one person files against you. So I really don't. That's going to be the real story, y'all. The real story is now, why didn't he pay her off? What happened between them that he was so vindictive towards her? See, my one black friend, it might have been the Cuddy thing, right? It could maybe. There's gotta be something that explains the emotional state, right? Because that's an emotional decision.
That's right. It's an emotional reaction.
You are so spiteful to this woman that you're willing to risk your everything to spite her. And boy, did you risk your everything.
Sees everything crumbling, and he has such a lavish lifestyle. But here's the kicker: if you made money as part of a RICO process, as part of an illegal enterprise, the government was going to recoup all of that money. You can try to hide it, you could put it in shell companies, but they're going to come for all your properties, they're going to come for all of your belongings. Even if you try to transfer it to your kids, they're going to come for that shit too. Because if you make money from illicit trade and you use your enterprise to be able to conceal that, they're going to take everything. So financially, his kids are not going to be destitute or dirt shit poor, but they're no longer live this lavish lifestyle of a billionaire. That shit's over.
Or they're going to have to.
No, I disagree. I
saw his son rap.
Because he gets residual income. He gets residual income. I disagree. Those kids, their lifestyle might become easier in terms that they don't have to support him in his shady stuff if they've been doing that. They can just be themselves and go out and enjoy, $7 coffees and Lamborghinis and stuff, because the money's still coming in from residuals, unless the radio stops playing music he produced, right? And he stops earning writing credit money and producing credit money. So no, those guys are wrong.
This is gonna get messy, and I don't think we know yet. So to your point, I think he's got so much money in so many ventures and so many places that it would be almost impossible to stop his family from, you know, reaping the rewards of what he's accomplished so far.
Yes.
The flip side of this, though, the thing that makes me hesitant is Rico. Because even you see earlier when they named his enterprises, they named his record label, his clothing company, his beverage. So if they can tie him and just maybe even a couple other co-conspirators that he had access to through their roles in those companies, then the federal government can't really move against those organizations and those entities in a way that's going to make it hard for his family to profit off of them. Is it going to be so much that they're going to be living like regular working class people and have to get jobs? Probably not. Will it be the difference in them being, you know, mega millionaires and billionaires in the future versus just having a few $1 million here or there? It might be. It might be financially devastating, but not eliminating. But it's the RICO. I think you're right. I think without RICO, it's tough. But if they convict them on the RICO and they indict his big holdings, and again, it's not all his holdings, the big ones. It's the record label, the drink. His vodka is really popular. His clothing line is really popular. Sean John. Because he wanted to wrap himself up as a lifestyle brand, right? He wanted you to get up in the morning. He wanted you to use his bath products. He wanted you to dress in Sean John. He wanted you to listen to his music. Like, that's what he was trying to. People don't necessarily realize that, but that was his vision. His vision was to create a whole thing where like his brands would be like pretty much everything you did. So it'll be interesting to see how much they go after, because that was one of the things I didn't bring up, but I was thinking about earlier, that's the interesting part. I still don't know how the entities play into all of this. And I think we won't know until we know more about the co-indicted conspirators and the witnesses. Yeah.
And other members and associates of the Combs enterprise wielded the power and prestige of Combs' role at the Combs business to intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into Combs' orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship, use force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sex acts with the males, commercial sex workers. Combs referred to as other things as freak-offs. So we've heard about this freak-off situation. This man is a weirdo. Freak-offs were elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, and masturbated during, and often recorded. In arranging these freak-offs, Combs, with assistance of members and associates of the Combs enterprise, transported and caused to be transported commercial sex workers across state lines and internationally. Freak-offs occurred regularly.
You want to know?
Yeah.
I want you guys to think about this. This guy's gonna try to claim he's not a weirdo,
and that's another thing that's tough, because if you're paying people to travel internationally for the purposes of prostitution, that's a big
Sex
problem. I put this person in timeout. I don't know. I didn't mean to
imagine.
highlight that. I don't know why I highlighted that, but yeah, I put them in timeout.
everything was above board. Think about trying to explain to regular people that you're some Hollywood exec who used to bring sex performers and random women all kinds of drugs, and then you would have them do freak-offs that you masturbated to. They're going to look at you like you're a disgusting weirdo. Okay? Now, being a disgusting weirdo is not illegal in and of itself, but I want you to think about how it's going to play in the perception and the mind of a regular person he's going to be trying to convince the jury, I'm not guilty of these crimes. I didn't do anything really weird or illegal. And all the jury's going to hear is like, you're really fucking weird. And you're really disgusting. You do things that we would never do. So is it a stretch to think that you would traffic people? You would do something called a freak-off? It's so inflammatory. There's literally no way you're going to get this in front of a jury and then get them to believe that you weren't forcing any of these women, especially when they found the tapes, especially when we don't have all that corroborating evidence.
To victims in part.
This is also very interesting too, because it's so weird to me that people really don't seem to care about the criminality of Donald Trump. But he was another case where like the stuff he did was just so plainly obvious that he was guilty that it was like almost not even worth talking about. And I feel like it's very much the same thing with Diddy. Like we just we now have heard these allegations in multiple lawsuits. We've heard it from people that are close to him. We've heard it from, former associates. So nobody thinks that, for instance, he didn't pay people for sex, or that he wasn't willing to have those people travel across state lines. We know that because he's constantly paying for people to travel and do different things. So it's just going to be very difficult to prove, and this becomes very plain. Like, were these people you paid to have sex or do sexual things with your partners? Yes. Did you take a trip on this date to the Bahamas? Yes. Did you pay for the travel of the prostitutes to come with you? Yes. We're done here. Like, it's not. This isn't going to be like the trial of the century.
Keep victims obedient and compliant. Unbeknownst to the victims, Combs kept videos he filmed of victims engaging in sex acts with commercial sex workers. After freak-offs, Combs and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and drug use.
Yo, the details are disturbing. This guy was so nasty and freaky. They had IV fluids like these guys were UFC fighters. Do you understand how much debauchery was going on here? Yuck.
I mean, there's no... This guy's the devil. But remember, he's presumed innocent. High-ranking supervisors, security staff, household staff facilitated the freak-offs by, and other things, booking hotel rooms, stocking the hotel rooms in advance with required freak-off supplies, including controlled substances, baby oil.
I will never look at baby oil the same way.
I'm not gonna look at baby oil the same way.
If I meet any girl, she says, yo, you ready to get on a freak-off? I'm like,
no.
Yo, this guy would organize freak-offs. He had a name for it. And also, this is not alleged. This is a known thing in the industry that he was into freak-offs. All the celebrities always talked about this.
And gang, like, I'm sorry, but you're not having good sex and something non-consensual sounds to be happening if IVs are involved. Don't get me wrong. I know a 2-pump chump is a problem. I know if you just getting started and you like, wait, it's over already. I know that's a problem. Okay, but it's also a fucking problem if you need a goddamn IV afterwards. I don't know what too long is, but that's too long. I don't know what it means to be doing too much, but if you need an IV, you're doing too much. You
can't go on. I'm dehydrated. Oh, wait, we have something for you.
Yeah. I think we're past the point of having a good time when people need that type of serious medical intervention.
Yeah, and all P. Diddy, all you had to do was wait for browsers to be free.
Yeah. Serious, it's crazy. Intermission. Yeah, PC, they ain't damn intermission.
It's just funny, just the image of him going like, hey, you know what time it is? Freak off, baby.
Yeah, some of the
booty freak off.
I've listened to Gene Deal interviews and Jaguar Wright interviews. Jaguar Wright is a performer. I don't know if she's still active. But the stuff coming out of her mouth, it's just shocking. And I think she's somebody who other people may have confided in because she just knows so much. Maybe they didn't. I can't say, but her body of knowledge about what Diddy was doing is incredible. And if you didn't think he was a despicable character in some ways, you would after listening to her, and you would after listening to Gene Deal.
Well, yeah, people should check out Jaguar right now. I think Jaguar Wright, she didn't reach the level of fame of some of these other artists, but Jaguar Wright is a dope singer. You can find performances on YouTube. You find performances of her like singing in concert and stuff. She was a famous background singer, and she's on a lot of those records, and then she was also on tour with these people. Matter of fact, if you go back and you watch Jay-Z Unplugged, which was a big hip-hop concert he did, it was like Jay-Z, he had the Roots behind him, and I think they did that at the TRL Music Studio. I love that album. Jaguar Wright is one of the backup singers for Jay-Z at that concert. So she sang behind Jay-Z, she sang behind Mary, she sang behind P. Diddy. So, and then she was on a lot of those records as like, when they do the vocal hooks or whatever. So I think you're absolutely right. I think people confided in her. I think she was around that scene. I think she knows all these people. And a lot of times, somebody who's in a position like that, as being a background vocal and stuff like that, people can confide in you because they don't think you'll ever be the topic of the story, or like it's like a safe person. But yeah, now it's all these years later, and she remembers them stories. She knows where the bodies are buried. She knows who did what to who and all of this. So it's been interesting to see her get her star turn. She get more of a star turn now than she did when she was singing behind these people. So good for her. Whenever the whim strikes him, that's right, PC.
Lubricant, linens, lighting, cleaning the hotel rooms to try to mitigate room damage, arranging for travel for victims and sex workers, and Combs to and from the freak-offs. Resupplying Combs with requested supplies, delivering large sums of cash to Combs to pay commercial sex workers, and scheduling the delivery of IV fluids. What a freaky little fucker.
Come on, y'all. Like arranging payments and arranging to have large sums of cash to pay these people. See, that's the problem. He was so rich and powerful that he didn't do these things on his own. He took people who probably worked for him in legitimate capacities and had them doing all this extra stuff. And now it's going to be very difficult for him to separate the two. And that's where the RICO gets in there, because you are now using your position in this organization and its human resources to commit crimes. Yeah. Oh, Jaguar did an interview with Cat Williams. Oh my God, I gotta watch that. There might be warning. There may be some crazy conspiracies in that one, but hey,
you can count on it.
It's probably gonna be entertaining for sure.
During this search of residences in Miami, Florida, Los Angeles, law enforcement seized various freak-off supplies. Is this real life? Are we really reading this? Including narcotics and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. Oh, you're a little freak, P. Diddy. Because 10 bottles of baby oil isn't enough. They need 1,000.
That's exactly what I said.
You can never have enough baby oil.
And honestly, like, you could get lube and baby oil in pretty big bottles. Like what? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, that's crazy. Like, what do you? I can't even imagine.
You can have too much.
The funny thing about baby oil is, like, one bottle lasts you so long.
You can have too much.
Why would you?
Look, y'all, I'm gonna tell you, I'm a grown man. Okay, so I have lube. I have a big bottle of lube, and it just stays on my nightstand. Like my lotion does, it just stays on my nightstand. But if I had 4 of them, right? Imagine if somebody walked in and had 4 bottles of lube and 4 bottles of lube. It would just be weird. They would be like, "What are you doing? What are you doing here? What happens in this room? What goes on here?" Like, it's just, it's perfectly normal. But then the quantity, just that's weird. That's a lot.
Not to be outdone by Pocket Locker, I pretty much always have enough motor oil to change the oil in at least 3 vehicles and enough grease to do chassis lubes as well.
But if you had 1,000,
I'm in business if I have 1,000.
Yeah, if you got in business. See, people think you distribute it. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yo, you want the whole shit wet. You want to be sliding to tomorrow morning.
You want to be sliding across the planet.
Sliding across state lines.
Sliding across state lines.
Yeah, it's over.
Yeah, P. Diddy's trying to slide on these charges too, I suppose.
He is. For jail a long time, and guess what? I'm glad. Send all these little fucking freaky weirdos to jail, okay? All the dudes who got to do whatever they want because they got famous early on, send them all to jail. Make them all pay, and let them die and rot in there. I don't even care if these people see a firing line, to be honest with you. I don't care what happens to them. They were down with hurting all these people. They didn't give a shit about them. I'm okay with them being removed from society. I'm okay with them. And I know some people DM me, "Oh, Abba, you just want to see a black man." I don't give a fuck if that dude was purple, white, yellow, Asian. Don't care. Don't care. He could have been straight out the set of The Simpsons. Don't give a fuck. Okay? You guys are too concerned with what gender did what their skin color is, and all this other bullshit. I don't give a fuck. If you hurt people, then it's okay for you to face the consequences of your actions. I watched this man on camera ragdoll this lady. I watched him toss her around without care, knowing the way he did that in a hotel elevator lobby means that was not the first time he did that. He did that in his fucking towel, beating her and ragdolling her there where anybody could see. You don't just start there. You've been doing that. You've been doing that for a long time. That's just a fact. There was no hesitation. This man chased her down and ragged all the shit out of her and kicked her. Like he was in a fucking street. Like this was Def Jam, Fight for New York. I was right.
Yeah.
It was
Fight for New York.
Yeah.
That was a good game.
He was kicking her like it was Def Jam, Fight for New York.
Yeah,
I just want to say that a lot of big dick deviants are gonna catch hell in 2024. That motherfucker was right. I just gotta say,
Pat Williams predicted.
I'm just saying.
Like a prophet. I'll say this too. If you in a hotel lobby and on the other end there's P. Diddy and a towel running at you, that gotta be one of the scariest things. That's my thoughts on this. It's over for this guy. He's 1,000% going to jail. The question is just how long. And in my estimation, he's looking at probably 50 plus years.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, they'll get him on the drug. The drug charges might be enough. The drug charges alone might be enough.
The drug charges alone.
Yeah, that might be enough. And the fact that he got other people into it, and especially if they're minors. Excuse me. So, folks, what hasn't been said thus far is that it gets worse. Pocket Locker, you may have these queued up. Let me know if you do. There are some concerns regarding the treatment of Usher and Justin Bieber.
No, I don't. That's it.
You don't? Okay.
Yeah, because when you talk about that, they were sent to him as minors.
Yes.
And he had some sort of temporary custody of them or some weird arrangement.
Yeah, so it may be. Now, again, I don't know if any of the things I've heard that cause concern, additional concern over what we heard already, right, are true. So, and I'm not making the claim that they are. But I think if ever there was a time that the facts, whatever they may be, will be exposed, it's going to be soon. It's going to be soon. If there are concerns for those two men, I think this is when we'll hear about them. They'll, in a way, I think they might feel duty bound, to say something so that he does get convicted, and also that other kids coming up don't face the same peril, right?
Yeah.
Because some kids won't understand what's happening to them. They won't know that this is not okay. Or they want the prize, right? They want to be famous and I'll do whatever. Don't do whatever to be famous. Don't do that. But they think that's what's required.
Yeah, they need to speak out, because if they don't, I think their silence is pretty damning. There are definitely some people, some celebrities, especially some rappers that have come to Diddy's defense. And I think there's no redeeming them in the public eye. Some of them have been clearly conflicted. People that Diddy helped or were his artist, or, people he was instrumental in their career or whatever. And they don't want to throw him under the bus. But I think for people like Justin Bieber and Usher, who have been named in this, we saw them on video with Diddy as teenagers and all of this type of stuff. I don't think those questions are going away. So they either need to say, hey, I don't know what he was doing with all this other stuff, but he never did anything weird when I was around, or there's going to be a lot of pressure for them to come forward and say what they experienced. Because I do think they're in positions themselves now of power to where they can tell the truth without worrying about
repercussions,
consequences.
It's just not an issue. Those two guys won't miss out on anything. I guess there's always the possibility that someone might, make a threat to their life. But at this point, I don't know. Now that I think about it, what's he got to lose if they do? If they do come forward, he might say, I don't have anything to lose. He already knows he's going to jail or prison, and he'll never get out. He already knows that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And it's funny. What he did hurt other people. And it wasn't like a little indiscretion. It was repeated. It was orchestrated. This he should have known, wait, this might mean big trouble, not just for me, but for the people involved. It would, for a person his stature, it would not have been difficult to get all the same things to happen with people who would have gladly volunteered for it. Right? Oh,
No,
I get to hang out with Diddy.
yeah.
He could have had a consensual from top to bottom and came out with a company like Brazzers where they produced that sort of content for people who like that sort of content and made money off of it and paid people residuals and everybody got rich. He could have done it that way. But for some reason, he liked the power to manipulate people. Well, dude, if I own a McDonald's franchise and I determine the schedule for my employees, that's a little power. They want to get their, hourly wage. Well, you got to do what I say. You got to make the food like we tell you. You got to do blah, blah. That's not enough for some people. That's honest work, though.
I think that's another thing that most of us don't understand. Just like we can't understand not paying off someone who has that much dirt on us. We don't understand because for the most part, even incrementally gaining more power, more money, more access, more influence comes with more autonomy in who you date and the ability to be with whoever. And these guys are in P. Diddy's at a level where it's no exaggeration to say he was dating the Jennifer Lopez's of the world. So that's what he could get consensually. Just, hi, I'm Sean Diddy. Would you like to go out with me? It's not like he was some rich person who was so unattractive, so weird, so creepy, so uncharismatic that he could only get what he paid for. Right? No, he was in relationships with models and all his wives were beautiful. So it wasn't like he couldn't have that. But you're right, there was something else he wanted that was coercion, that was getting people to do things they wouldn't do otherwise. Even Cassie, she was a young, up and coming, beautiful artist. Could have been compared to physically like a Rihanna or somebody like that.
Yeah, Cassie is one of the most beautiful women in the world.
In the game, and that wasn't enough. It was like you needed to make her do all this other stuff. So people don't get that. We can look at this. This one that PC put up.
To New York City, and I moved to New York City, and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year. It was curious.
A year.
I got a chance to see some things. It was pretty.
Now
wild.
we have to talk about that just real quick, y'all. I'm not a parent, but how many of y'all would let y'all 14-year-olds live with a celebrity for a year? There has to be something in that arrangement. I would love to hear his parents talk about that decision.
Well, I think it could be simple without making something big out of it. It might be that his family didn't want to hold him back because they knew. You hear Usher sing, he's got potential. Like, this isn't a dude that's faking his way to the top. He doesn't have to lie about his ability or anything like that. He has an outstanding, powerful singing voice. He does. I have a friend that I don't know if she still works for him. She was his assistant for years. But the guy's just got crazy talent. So it may be that the family thought, well, here's a real shot for him.
Yeah, and they felt
to rock into superstar. Like why hold him back? And if they had a bunch of kids, I don't know what his family situation was like, but if his parents were struggling to feed their family and all of a sudden one of their kids, they don't have to feed, they don't have to educate them, they don't have to take care of him, and they think he's going to be okay because he's in an environment where he won't have any needs that go unmet. Might not be a bad deal.
And I think that is a form of coercion, right? Because it's almost like making them an offer they can't say no to. But it doesn't seem healthy, right? Even now, if I were to be in Diddy's situation and I found a young artist, it just wouldn't feel appropriate these days for me to have a teenager living with me, right? Like I even little weird things like talking to a young person, right? There was a lot of times in life where you could have a certain, like you might know the teenage kids of some of your neighbors, right? But there's a real limit to how you engage with them. Like it's not weird for you to show them some love, show them some affection, maybe even buy them gifts. But you do all that with their parents around when you're over at the house or whatever. It would be weird if you were like texting them, talking on the phone with them, having your own. When it comes to that, we always say like, nah, as a grown ass man, there's really nothing me and a teenager, need to be talking about to that extent. One I think about is college students. When I went to college, I went from really small schools to really big schools. So part of making Penn State feel small to me was I had really good, close relationships with my professors. I was in their office hours all the time, but I also knew them. I talked to them on the phone. I went to their places. They came to my place. Like, they knew my roommates. Like, you don't do that anymore. 2024, I will never meet with my students off campus. We just don't get down like that anymore. Does that mean what I'm saying? So there are these like cultural shifts. And so I do think part of what we hear when we hear the Usher story is we're just going, whoa, right? And our 2024 ears are not remembering the crazy shit people got away with, even in the early 90s or whatever it was. But yeah, now that all this has come to light, it would be really interesting to revisit that arrangement, and see what was actually going on. Hey, Sumami.
On Diddy, now going viral.
These are places that a 13-year-old probably should not be.
In the wake of his former mentor's federal house raids.
I met Puffy a long time ago, around, 92.
Flash forward to 2016.
So I don't know if Mace is a preacher anymore. So Mace was a preacher. He's kind of like done like this. He was with Puffy for a while, then he became a preacher. Then he stopped preaching for a hot minute and tried to get with G Unit, but still be like clean or something. And I don't know where Mace is at now, but he is important to all of this because he's another artist that claims that Diddy took advantage of him. Diddy ruined his career. The deal he got with Diddy, while yes, it did make him a household name and make him a celebrity, it also ruined him financially. It wasn't right. He claims Diddy owes him millions of dollars.
Yeah, royalties.
So Mace has a big problem. And another interesting story is the thing with royalty. So one of the things there's just so much here with Diddy that, there's stories that are falling off the table. But one of the things is like he was apparently really exploitive to his artist. For instance, like they didn't have control over their own masters. Records are all about the masters. When you make a recording, there's a master recording. It used to physically be a master. There was physically one original record that got printed, and it was the master. And a lot of power in terms of compensation for record sales, merchandise, ticket sales, all of that stuff comes down to who owns the masters. Matter of fact, it's why so many artists are so big on touring. The deal was when you sign with the record label owned the masters. And so artists, you got cents on the dollar. You didn't make a ton of money off record sales, but the idea was that selling a lot of records was going to make sure you were also like in play on the radio a lot. And then that was going to be what got you on tour. And that was how you could sell out an arena and be a big touring artist. And most artists make a lot of their money off touring and merch because that's where they get much more of the ticket sales than they do of a record sale. And so the real autonomy comes with owning your masters and what is the arrangement made about the masters. So anyway, that was a big part of the problem with Puffy, was that he was exploitive. His artists didn't get paid well, and they didn't own their own masters. Not uncommon in the record business, but nevertheless considered an exploitive practice that he didn't do any better on. Some of the interesting things is now, and maybe now as people are going to see this as witness tampering, one of the things he's done in like the last year or so was give over much more control of the records to the artist. And people are not happy about it because, one, it seems like he's doing this when they're going to be worth much less going forward.
Yeah,
you're
because
caught up in
nobody's
all
selling
this
CDs anymore.
controversy. Not only that, but like the Bad Boy, he's ruining the Bad Boy catalog. Nobody wants to put these records on the radio. Nobody wants to, because he's being canceled basically. So you're going to give us control of the records. That's great, but you got canceled first, and so now these records are not worth nearly as much as they would have been. The other thing is, like I said, it almost seems like witness tampering, and a lot of them had to sign NDAs. This is something that came out from the Danity Kane article. So he offered to, give them more control over the masters, but wanted them to sign non-disclosure agreements that they would never say anything bad about him publicly. So it's like, even when he tries to look like he's doing something right for his artist, there's a whole bunch of other shadiness that goes along with it. And that might really come out, because I think the federal government is going to look at that. And they really are, again, y'all, they serious about that witness tampering. And if they think you made a deal with people to keep them silent, then he might actually get in even more trouble behind that. So it's just, this whole thing is a mess.
The singer recalling his wild memories of living with Diddy, who now faces serious legal trouble, including sex trafficking allegations.
We're sending you over to something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
In the 90s,
Flavor
you understand
Camp.
what that's like? I went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw it. It was pretty wild. There were very curious things taking place. And I didn't necessarily understand it.
There's so many things that I wanna do. I promise you.
Diddy helping Usher with his debut album alongside other soon-to-be music superstars. And in the backdrop, Diddy...
I gotta say, that's weird too. We did this with Britney Spears. We did this with Christina Aguilera. But I don't like them making underaged artists sex symbols. And you can see that that's what Puffy's Flavor Camp was about. Usher was a kid. You know, when they do tell a little fun story, did he say, oh, we used to wrestle over the Frosted Flakes, we used to wrestle over the cereal or whatever the fuck it was. Like, he was a kid. And yes, they were trying to turn him into an R&B artist, but to me, they sexualized him in like an adult way. And they do this with a lot of white female artists too. It's not just Usher. But I wouldn't do that. Like, I think there's a certain way to be pop, to be popular, to sell a lot of records, to promote artists in a way that's appropriate for minors. Plenty of artists. And again, they could have love songs, but they get to a certain point, it's like, nah, I don't want a 15-year-old, you know what I mean, talking about the red light special and all of this. Like, you ain't supposed to know about all that yet.
Right.
I know I'm probably sounding corny.
Be innocent for a while.
I know I'm sounding weird, but I'm just saying, y'all, it's gotta be a little creepy to us that these big companies invest millions of dollars into sexualizing teenagers, and we don't bat at that. Now that this is all coming to light, we got to be like, what the fuck you think was really going on when they were putting all this money into sexualizing teenagers? And we should probably stop that. Yeah.
Diddy's hardcore lifestyle.
Biggie Smalls was there.
Biggie Smalls was there. Lil' Kim, Craig Mack.
All these people are hanging around.
Yeah, man. Faith Evans,
And your parents
Jodeci,
were
Mary
okay?
J. Blige. They didn't know nothing about this.
Oh.
I was having a good time. You know what I mean?
Does he have you doing any chores? Are you doing dishes
Hey,
at all? I
Steph.
mean, to keep you humble somewhat? Or are you just like, can you stay up till 4 a.m. with them and party?
I mean, I could. I actually stayed up longer than them.
Puffy was scheduled to do my record, and I went out to meet him. He was a really cool cat. He's actually coming up on a lot of different things. He had a few artists, but he was just getting started. Bad Boy was, really up and coming. And I just always known him as a hard worker. He did my first album, completed my first album, and we kept a friendship.
Despite the friendship,
Okay, I have to get into this. This is just a pet peeve of mine, but it matters with all of these guys. Part of the mythology of Puff Diddy in Bad Boy was the lore that he's the super hard worker. He's the type of person who says, "Oh, you can sleep when you're dead. I don't ever sleep. I'm working all the time." And even I may have heard of this famous incident on Making the Band where he made the members that were still there trying to make the band. He made them like walk across Brooklyn to like get him a slice of cheesecake. from his favorite
Cheesesteak
cheesecake
sandwich, I think it
place.
was. Wasn't it cheesesteak?
No, I think it was a piece of cheesecake. No, I
Oh,
remember.
okay.
Yeah, it was a piece of cheesecake. And then made them bring it back to him. That was all part of this myth of like he just worked so hard and you got to deal with the hazing because this just a culture of hard work. I mean, this is a person who literally won't shut up about how hard they work. And I think with all these cases, we have to start to like tear down that mythology. These are not hardworking people. You got time to be doing freak offs and traveling all over the world. Like, stop trying to pretend that you work harder than a regular person with a day job. Just stop. I really get sick of this notion that these millionaires and billionaires, like you become a millionaire, billionaire to not have to work as hard. Like, don't stop. Like, we really have to stop letting these people gaslight us. And Trump does the same thing, right? He pretends like he's the most hardworking person there is. No, and ain't no president in history ever played golf more than him,
for one quarter of their term.
Or slept
Literally.
slept in later. He literally has to have. He can't even get the normal presidential briefing. They have to give him one with pictures that's only a few pages and large font because he don't even have the attention span to get through a normal morning briefing. Like,
he gets the pre-K briefing.
Like, please. Like I said, I know it's just a personal pet peeve, but can we please stop letting these people pretend they work harder than us? It drives me up a wall. Up a freaking wall. If he was really the hardest working man in show business, he wouldn't have had time for all of this shit. He'd have been too busy making records, signing artists, negotiating contracts. He wouldn't do none of that.
After admitting in his 2017 Oprah's Masterclass, his 13-year-old maturity at the time seemed to surpass his mentor.
We would fight, we would tussle. More than often, I think Puffy would say, man, you got to chill. Like, you just a little bit too intense.
Yes, hold on.
You know, you got
Liz Allen said it's fucking ableist anyway. Yes, it is so ableist anyway. 100%.
to relax. Like, yo, man, I'm here to work, man. I ain't sang in a week. I mean, I'm 13 years old. I'm not here to party with you. I don't want to go to the clubs. Matter of fact, I'm too young to even be in here. Why you got me in clubs? There were a lot of things I seen and a lot of positions that I think I was put in where I had to make very, very tough decisions in my life about who I would be.
New York is a little bit too fast.
Now, I don't know if y'all are picking up what I'm picking up, but look at the body language. Look at the way he's disturbed.
Right.
He was clearly disturbed. He was disturbed then. I was going to talk about this, but I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't because he brought it up. But think about that in the middle. Think about if your parents did that. If your parents trusted you to go to Diddy, he's going to help you in the music game. You're going to make a record. You're going to be a big, artist. And we're letting you stay with him for a year, trust it. And then you, as the teenager, have to go to the grown-ass man and say, can we make some music up in this piece? Like, I came here to make music. So clearly, again, hardest working man in the business. Usher's hanging out for a year. It gets months in. It's like, when are we going to actually make some music? Again, that's why I don't want to buy that mythology. You the hardest working person. This child had to ask you, can we get some work done around here? Can we do some, are we gonna do some work up in this piece? And then think about that, like the gumption that it takes, the gall, the audacity he had to work up to challenge this man, right? And he's literally saying, I don't know why I'm even here, because you got me here. I'm experiencing things I shouldn't be experiencing. I came here to make music, and you're exposing me to things I shouldn't be exposed to. That's, to me, sounds like it was a lot of inappropriate shit going on. A lot of inappropriate shit going on.
You know what? I spent like a year here.
Meanwhile, Usher has yet to address Diddy's legal troubles. But back in his resurfaced interview, the father of four did tell Shock Jock Stern this.
Do you have money? What's going on?
I mean, I had like per diem. I had like,
Sumami said, my parents barely let me stay over at my best friend's house. You grew up like
my wife, Sumami, my wife has already said she doesn't want our daughter staying the night at anybody else's house.
Yeah.
When she gets her friends from school or wherever, there's none of that.
So it has to be a very unique arrangement for you to let your child live with a grown person for a year, for sure. And I think you're right. My one black friend, a lot of it is certain people are in situations that people in power and privilege they can make you offers you can't refuse. It just is what it is. So sad.
Yeah, life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy camp?
Look at that. Look at that. Hell no. See, he know. He know what's going on. He knows what's going on. All right, look, y'all, this been super fun. My one black friend, I'm gonna let you wrap us up.
All right. Well, be careful out there. Who the heck knows?
Yeah, be careful out there.
If you know something like this is going on, you got to speak up. Again, I said it earlier. He had every opportunity to do all this with consenting adults and have it be legal, except for the drug part, or the drugs and guns. He could have taken those two things out of it, got all the same stuff done on footage for his personal use or for the trade. He could have done it that way, and it would have been permissible. It would have been legal. But to create things for blackmail, I don't know. I do want to say one thing. I'm not going to be super specific. So I used to audition for acting roles. These are almost always recorded on video. And some of the questions I would get from time to time would lead one to think that someone was saving this information for purposes that had nothing to do with the audition.
Wow.
Yeah. So one of those questions, I'm going to try to remember. I'll get you a ballpark of that question. What is something that makes you edgy? So when I answered this question, I said something about my deep past, like when I was a teenager, stuff I was doing in like 6th grade and stuff like that. That I think a lot, if my mother only knew, she would be horrified. Stories I probably will never tell my daughter about things I did back then.
Yeah.
She'll never know. I think my wife knows some of this stuff, but my daughter just won't know. She will. If I see her sort of headed down that road, I'm like, sweetheart, let me talk to you about this.
Yeah.
And then I still probably wouldn't tell her. But how many thousands of people had answers like mine to where somebody might try to blackmail you with this information one day? Now, I know me. If they ever tried to do that with me, I would just say, did I say it on there? I'm doing an audition. I'm trying to get a part.
Yeah.
They can use that explanation. I was just trying to get a part. I'm not doing those things anymore. I haven't done those things for 20 plus years. Can I please be in your movie?
Right.
Can I be on your TV show? So just be careful out there. And now we have the internet where people can just broadcast that stuff within minutes. And you might not want that. And if you can rescue somebody out of that lifestyle, just drop them off at the police station or have the police come and get them. That's probably where they'll feel safest. Or have the FBI investigate and let them handle it. But if you can, again, rescuing someone out of that lifestyle might be the thing you're most proud of in your whole life.
Yeah, so for me, it's just a bunch of things to think about. So one is not just beware, obviously, celebrity culture. These are deeply flawed people. But also, I think beware of representation, because one of the things I think P. Diddy did was he occupied the space of what a successful Black man looks like. He became a symbol of what we call Black excellence. But like so many people who that gets attached to, Oprah comes to mind even this year. A lot of times those people are exploiting their Blackness, exploiting Black people, exploiting Black culture. And that it's important to notice when that's happening and pay attention to it. The other thing is just the victims. There's a lot of them. And obviously I just think as people maybe start to pay attention to this or hear more stories coming out, just keep in mind for the victims, and what people go through. And it can be a bit, I think, somewhat dehumanizing to be a celebrity. Like, and sometimes it's hard for us to see rich, famous people as victims. Like, oh, Cassie's a victim, but she's famous, she's powerful, she's beautiful, but that's still a terrified woman who went through, a horrible
She went too
experience.
much. Went through too much.
Went through too much, yeah. And a lot of these people went through too much. And so it is kind of funny to tell the jokes or hear the little details that come out. Oh, Diddy was a gangster. Diddy had 1,000 bottles of lube or whatever. But it's important to really think, and even sex workers, right? I think that's part of it too. People may not understand where the lines are. So, if a person consented to being paid, to traveling, that doesn't necessarily mean that they consented to everything they experienced once they got there, or whatever the substance and stuff, right? So there's a lot of those areas where I think even myself is when I get to that, it's hard for me to really know everything that happened. You get this bit of a gray area, and you can lose sight of the fact that these people are victims. Yeah, they may be famous. That don't mean this is right. Yeah, they may be people who agreed to have sex for money, but that don't mean all this other shit was right. You know what I mean? So it's just that's just something to pay attention to for me. Yeah.
Well, I think those are all good points. And I've met, just by the nature of living in Los Angeles, I've met a heck of a lot of famous people. And most, I can say almost all the ones I've met have been very humble. And I can think of, I was there when someone who I knew that was famous met one of their fans. It was like a 8-year-old girl. This guy couldn't have been nicer, gone out of his way in appreciation, because here's this young fan seeing him, and she's so delighted, and he said to his assistant, hey, she wants our picture, do you mind, can you take our picture? And didn't rush off, right? Didn't go back to what he was doing. He stayed there until the mother of this girl and the little girl were like, okay, we got the photos we want, and we're really happy, so lovely to meet you, and off they went. Because that guy knows it's not, people like that little girl's mom are why he has a job. There thousands, hundreds of thousands of people just like her. And to know that he's inherently a good person only enhances that. Like he was actually, he did something I didn't care for, but for the rest of the time, the guy was great. But that's most of them I'm willing to say that I've met. And I've probably met like 300 of them.
Well, we don't, but they're a different person. We meet a different person. Like, I'm sure if I met Diddy, I'm sure he would seem really cool to a lot of his fans.
Want to come to a party, pocket locker?
Yeah, exactly. But I do think there's it's just keeping it all in check. It's just knowing, okay, they might seem cool. Like Keanu Reeves seems like a really cool, down to earth celebrity, but I don't know, he might be an asshole to his staff, or maybe he's an asshole behind closed doors. We just know, oh, he got in an accident with this woman and he was really nice about it and he took care of it. And so it's like politicians, they know when the lights are on. And so you just got to take it with a grain of salt and know that you don't really know, you know that you don't know, Yeah. All right, folks. Appreciate everybody. This was definitely one of our
the hottest of hot programs.
The hottest of hot programs. It was really well attended. So thank you to everybody who watched.
Thank you all.
Thanks to everybody who's in the chat. Thanks to all the mods. Please join the Discord if you haven't, and we'll be hanging out and gather today. That's our virtual headquarters. If you want to come check us out, there are links I can drop in the chat real quick. If you're watching later, leave us a comment. Otherwise, leave us a like on your way out. Drop a subscribe if you haven't, and be good to yourselves.
And next Sunday, it's guess the baby's length and weight, and whether she's bald or not.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. The baby should be here next week, right?
The baby should be here. She should be here Wednesday. And yeah, let's see how our audience does.
Bear or Diddy? That's gonna be the new hot one.
Bear or Diddy? What does that mean?
It was like bear or man, and like men were freaking out that women were like, "Oh, we take the bear every time because men are dangerous and bears really aren't." So now it's Diddy or bear. Yeah.
Yeah, Diddy says, "Hold my bear."
All right, love y'all. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.